Last night on the show, we talked about how the right is making stuff up about illegal immigrants and immigration to scare people, especially those of us with not that much melanin. Today we have learned that scaring white people for fun and profit is not only politically expedient, it's also increasingly easy to do. Tea Party Nation, the for-profit, ostensibly grassrootsy gang which first introduced America to what was written on Sarah Palin's poem during public appearances, that group sent out an email this morning directing all of their subscribers to their website because they said, "The drumbeat for amnesty is here." And you just thought you were hearing things. But Tea Party Nation has created a new online forum on which they've asked Tea Partiers to post stories of illegal immigration. And not just any stories will do. Quoting from the email here, quote, if have been the victim of a crime, it's actually missing the you pronoun. That's actually what it says. If have been the victim of a crime by an illegal, or if your business has gone under because your competition uses illegals, or if you have lost your job to illegals, we want to know about it. If you have photos and videos of illegals or their supporters doing outrageous things, like burning the American flag or putting the Mexican flag above ours or showing racist posters, please share those as well. We need to get the true story out about illegal immigration, and we need your help to do it. So if you say know of an undocumented immigrant who has helped an old lady across the street, or helped a stranger with a spare tire, or for heaven's sake, saved a puppy from drowning, oh, do not post that on the Tea Party Nation Immigration Forum. Acts of decency by people without papers are disqualified from this forum. Quick, someone save the puppy from the illegal Mexican drug cartel water in Laredo. They only want stories of immigrants being bad. That's specifically what they've asked for in this email appeal to their supporters. They know that illegal immigrants being bad is the truth. Now they just need to find some evidence of that to back up that truth, since they already know it's true, before they get the evidence. Scaring white people for fun and profit is not a new idea. It is not a new goal, but its means have come a long way, baby. Remember the White Hands ad from 1990 tapping white resentment about affirmative action to get North Carolina to vote for Jesse Helms against a black candidate? Well, now they don't need slick commercials or TV time to get across that message. Now the fact-free fear and loathing to make white people afraid for electoral purposes, now it's user-generated. Joining us now is Princeton professor, columnist for The Nation, and MSNBC contributor Melissa Harris-Lacewell. Very nice to see you. Thanks for coming in.
Yeah, good to be here.
Scaring white people for political profit is obviously a very old tactic. Does it matter that it's being done in a new way?
I think it does. I think it shows that the right is collecting itself a little bit. Part of what happened in the 2008 campaign was that OFA, Obama for America, demonstrated a kind of nimble capacity relative to new media sources. They had the first iPhone application. They figured out how to use Facebook in the most appropriate ways to get both their supporters and their detractors to put it all on the web and kind of leave it there. You know, they really developed new media in this profound way that changed American elections. And so part of the question was whether or not this party of old white guys was going to be able to, not exclusively, would be able to make use of new media in this way. And this is demonstrative of their ability to, again, be kind of nimble. Let's not, hire expensive people to make up the commercials like Willie Horton. Let's just get them from user-generated media. Everybody's out there with their iPhone and taking the videos of it.
You know, the Obama campaign, even as they were better with this type of offense, just tactically, they also were better on defense. They seem to be able to handle this kind of attack better than Democrats as a whole and the Democratic Party handles it now. Do the Democrats know how to respond here? Could they model some of their response, especially in talking about racial issues, on the way the Obama campaign did it?
Did you just ask me if the Democrats know how to respond? Come on. We know the answer. Yeah, okay. So what I'll say is, I think part of what we've come to learn about President Obama is that he is in so many ways a policy wonk. He really, you can see that what he would prefer to be doing is kind of of locked up, in his study, writing big ideas, doing the legislative battles. Part of why he said he ran for president was because he was irritated about being unable as a senator to really move things along. Yeah. What kind of person wants to be president in order to get things done, right? Someone who is clearly imagining an America that was before one had to, at all times, always be campaigning. So I think part of what's happened here is that the Democratic Party hasn't quite taken on the capacity that OFA had in 2008, but certainly is going to need to in order to be responsive to this sort of thing.
Do you think that these particular racial appeals, and we've seen this really a lot of it in conservative media, but among some of these organizing groups as well, this Tea Party Nation thing, I mean, they're specifically looking for scare stories. They say in their email, we want horror stories. Yeah. Why do you want those? Because they want to use them for political gains. We've also seen